too many people think that you have to learn things through addition. You add, and you add, and you add, and you add. But learning is as much about subtraction as it is adding. It's as much about letting things settle in, sink in, and find equilibrium as it is about adding. We can't really learn if we keep shoveling stuff in. That's not how that actually works. So today we're going to take a lesson from the dark moon and learn how to actually find wisdom in darkness. Join me, if you will, as we discuss this very dark and interesting topic as we walk together down creation's path. Hello everyone, my name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan druid and priest of Brigid.
Hello everyone, my name is Brian. I am a Christopagan druid and sous chef to the Dogdo.
Today we're going to be talking about the Via Negativa because we do it every month. But I want to talk about it in a way that is a bit different today. So if you are like, it's another Via Negativa episode, I'm not into going into the darkness, the path of silence. Like, do you know what my month has been? I think my favorite social media post I've seen all month is November has been the longest year ever.
Yeah.
And I feel that. We're not talking about bad feelings or even letting go today. So hold on, we'll get there.
We're talking like, hello darkness, my old friend.
In a way, yeah.
I would have sung it, but
you don't want anybody to know how good of a singer you are.
Yeah, we might get a content straight. Nailed it.
So before we get into it, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology is on whatever app you happen to be listening to us on. We do original Christopagan and Druid content 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and you don't want to miss a thing because we got a lot coming up. All right, let's get into it. The dark moon is not about letting anything go. I want to say this up front because this to me is the most overlooked aspect of the Via Negativa, of the dark path, of the mystic path, as I like to call it, of the path of silence, the negative way, whatever you want to call this path. Yes, sometimes it's about learning to let go. Sometimes it's learning to let be. The dark moon is what the moon actually looks like. The dark moon is the moon showing you its true face. It's with the addition of light from the sun that the moon shines and shimmers and is bright in the sky. The dark moon is the moon exactly as it is.
As I like to say, it's keeping it 100.
Yeah. And in so many ways, I think this is where we get our quest for wisdom completely wrong. Our quest for knowledge completely wrong. Because we have, and I'm trying not to use really big philosophical words here because they don't serve anything, but making me have to explain them for 10 minutes each. But we have basically a learning style of adding and adding and adding where here's more knowledge, here's more knowledge, here's more knowledge. And that is useful, that is vital, that is a thing that needs to happen sometimes. But then we have kind of this Socratic method of, no, we're going to strip back and find out what's buried underneath method. And I'm not a big fan of Socrates. I think it's always important when people think about Socrates to remember he was the Jordan Peterson of his time. He made some halfway decent points, maybe. I think Plato made some very decent points and put them in the mouth of Socrates.
Fixed a lot of Socrates.
Socrates himself believed that writing was a mistake. Like, he was a reactionary figure in his own time, and it's easy for us to forget that. But that's not the subject of this episode. If you want me to do a deep dive into Socrates, I can do that. We have these two modes of we're either building something up or tearing something down. And like with all things, we rarely have the middle ground, the middle way of, and I don't like the phrase letting it be for this, because letting it be means not changing anything. And it's very hands-off. And This is not a hands-off practice that I'm talking about. It's about just being with, maybe.
It really does need a better phrase, because a lot of times whenever I talk about it, I feel like I have to juxtapose letting go with letting be. Like, I have to put them together because for me, the strongest imagery I like of this is holding your hand out, right? Just holding your hand out and open in front of you. Take anything that's around you, whatever the thing is, like I got a phone here, and you put it in your hand and you just let it sit in your hand. It is that act. You are not holding it. You have let it go because letting go of something means your hand is in an open position. It has been let go, but you haven't thrown it away. You're not falling because you let go. It is still in your hand. It's still there unless it decides not to be there, and then it can go wherever it goes. If you picked up your cat or dog, they probably wandered off by now or gave you a confused look. But, it's the same thing. It's an open hand. And I found that to be most helpful because then you can it's letting it be what it is in its natural, in its, as it is. I like the phrase keeping it 100 because it's about just, you accept it. There's no judgment involved. It's not that time for decision or change or transformation or creating anything else. This is the moment of it is as it is.
The problem is our language really doesn't have good vocabulary for this thing. It's not exactly observation. It's not investigation. It's not letting be. It's not letting go. Like all of the words
it's not beholding.
It's beholding.
Yeah.
It's being, or I might even borrow Thich Nhat Hanh's interbeing here. So how do you gain wisdom through this process of seeming inaction? Because I don't think that we are capable of inaction. I guess I should start there. I don't believe any animate object is capable of inaction. I don't. I actually don't even think that what we call inanimate objects are capable of inaction, because a rock is still pressing down into the earth or being pulled down into the earth, depending on your perspective, and Like they're slowly moving down the mountain. The wind is slowly chipping. Like motion is still happening, even if it's at a very slow pace that is imperceptible to us.
Yeah. Even its molecular structure is altering, and electrons are switching around.
Yeah,
when you want to get down to a lower level, smaller.
There's a whole dance going on down to the atomic level. But when we're actually engaging in this, I think this is where people get confused on the idea of communing with nature. So let's take, because I've talked about it on the podcast before, sitting with a tree. I love my dryad practice. I really do. But there are many phases to this. One is studying trees. That's the additive, right? I'm learning about trees. Oh, I'm going to spend some time with the maple tree in my yard. So let's study maple trees. What is a maple tree? How does a maple tree grow? How can you tell if a maple tree is happy, healthy, ... That's via positiva additive path, right? Letting go is letting go of my preconceptions, right? I'm just going to not think about any feelings I have about maple trees because I have a lot of fond memories of them. My great-grandparents had a porch swing under a maple tree. Maples to me are very much symbols of like family and that warm feeling of some of the happiest memories of my childhood, right? So I'm going to let that go. The creative way to engage with this is entering into an active imagination of having a conversation with the tree, right? The via transformativa is taking care of the tree, making sure the limbs are pruned so it's not going into a power line or over the house, or taking the dead limbs out of it so that they don't fall and do further damage to the tree, right? That's the other 4 paths. But we still missed a thing back in the via negativa, and that's being with the tree. We don't like this idea of confronting reality as it is. One of my favorite practices when it comes to this kind of tree practice, for example, is just sitting with the tree. I hear the wind rustling through its leaves. I can sometimes hear the wood kind of creaking or clicking past each other as branches are kind of tapping on each other as the wind's moving through. I understand that the air that I am breathing is the air it is breathing, and that it is breathing out, right? That we are in this respiration cycle between us, that my carbon dioxide feeds it and its oxygen feeds me. But that's all still in this realm of knowing. We're still relying on that knowledge we picked up in the via positiva, right? We can even go into the creativa and start imagining, what do the sounds mean? What is the tree trying to tell me, right? But no, we're trying to get to just being with the tree. And that's it. It's just that. Understanding the illusion that I and the tree are separate. Because I and the tree are separate only because I can't see the soup of atoms and molecules between the two of us. If air wasn't transparent, and you can really tell this when it's foggy and air is no longer transparent, there's this whole sea of particles between it and me. I may be a tighter cluster, it may be a tighter cluster, but we're not really separated. We're touching through this long chain of interaction between the two of us. Again, that's knowledge, but sitting with that I am here, it is there. Just being there and accepting the tree as it is, looking at its limbs, taking it on its face value. What is it? That's how you learn to respect a thing. And that's how you learn to understand the thing as it is. This is why a lot of pet owners have problems with their pets, is they want their pets to either be little people or children. They don't approach the dog as the dog. A dog is a dog. A dog is going to act like a dog. It's just letting yourself exist with and beside whatever it is that is there. And you'll be surprised at the insights that just being there can generate. It's hard to explain for people that have not done this.
It really is. It is a gateway to a lot of deeper inner wisdom. I call them X-whisper, dog whisper, cat whisper, food whisper, plant whisper, tree whisper. That person that is just intuitively connected with and understands and just can communicate on a level that seems beyond with the thing, whatever it is they're an X-whisperer of. This is the first step and the crucial step of that process. First learning to just sit and be with and accept X, whatever it is, for what it is where a lot of that wisdom comes from. And then from the other paths then kick in and you're able to have that deeper communication. And it's so funny because like for one of those instances with food, I learned to just sit and be with the ingredients. And when I'm quote unquote in the zone or whatever, I'm able to sit and just accept them for what they are. I'm not worried about what they will become or how they need to be, what has to be added to them to make it quote unquote work. I have to first listen to the ingredient, and each one's different. Be with it. Accept it as it is. A lot of times it will tell me, like you'll hear chefs go, well, this dish told me what it is. Or you hear sculptors say, this sculpture was already there in the rock. I just had to wait for the rock to tell me what to do to make it show itself. This is exactly that practice. This is that inner wisdom.
Our culture, it feels like, is allergic to wisdom because wisdom is not knowledge. It's not intelligence. Like this is what studying the tree of life really helps you with when you understand the difference between Chokhmah, Binah, and Da'at. The difference between wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Because they're different. I have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things and very little understanding about them, right? I can explain to you how a car works. I understand, I have knowledge of the internal combustion engine and why the spark plugs are there. And I can give you all, if your car is broken. And so I can't help you. I have no understanding. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't understand the workings. I can't fix it. I can't get in there and do anything with it. There's a difference between knowledge and understanding. Understanding can get in there, right? I can tell you what makes a plant grow. I can't really grow plants. I try.
Maybe a more approachable way to explain this example is like I know words. I have a fairly in-depth vocabulary, fairly advanced vocabulary. I can be very verbose at times, should I choose to, but I don't have the understanding of crafting those words into art, into a beautifully crafted sentence, a beautifully crafted paragraph and story, for instance. So that's that difference between knowledge. A lot of people have the knowledge of English language, for instance. You know what words are, you know many words, but you don't have the wisdom of being able to put them in the right order.
Understanding.
I'm sorry, understanding.
See, yeah, this is a problem.
This is a problem. I just actually demonstrated the...
Because we in English use these words synonymous. Wisdom is the experience. We try to lump wisdom and understanding into street smarts, right? It's I get it. When you say I get it, you're trying to say that you have both wisdom and understanding. Do you get it? Do you understand? And they are separate processes and they are separate modes of interacting. Knowledge is just that. Knowledge is I can take in facts and I can regurgitate them. That's knowledge. Knowledge for some people is very, like myself, very simple. I can onboard information. I can export that information. It's not a hard thing for me to do. Understanding is being able to work with that information. I have studied architecture because I'm fascinated by architecture. I could not design a building. I could not design a building. I have enough knowledge about architecture that when I'm playing a game that does fairly good architectural sims, I understand when I need to put in like a flying buttress to hold a wall up or what have you, right? I have a knowledge that can help me with that. If I had to design a real world building, it would fall down. I do not have an understanding. And that's what most education is actually trying to give you, is both the knowledge and the understanding. That's what we think of when we think of education, especially in this country. We have a very practical understanding of education. That's not a bad way of doing, right? I understand a lot of things about cooking, but I know more about cooking than I understand, right? I know what makes the most perfectly flaky pastries ever. I can recite to you the methodologies and what have you. Oh, wait, but I don't have the wisdom of the flour. Oh, wait, I brought in a third thing. See, wisdom is the experience that you get. It's what often gets people confused about whether you have skill or talent. It's the thing that breeds imposter syndrome in people when they operate from a place of wisdom without the book learning, the knowledge, or have the degrees that tell them that they have the knowledge or understanding because they have the piece of paper. Wisdom comes from getting in there, right? Getting your hands dirty, having that flour going between your fingers, kneading the dough. Wisdom tells you, oh no, I can feel that the dough is ready to proof. Understanding is, I have kneaded this enough so that the outside of this has formed a skin that is relatively smooth. It should prove now. Knowledge is knowing I should knead this until the outside skin is smooth so that it can then be proof. Hopefully you can see the difference in those three ways of saying what to a lot of people will sound like I said the same thing 3 times.
Yeah, because often you can complete whatever task you're doing with one of the 3 or 2 of the 3. This is where phrases like, oh, I just cheated and used wisdom, like with plants, for instance. I'm terrible with plants because I lack understanding. Like, I have knowledge. I understand. I have the knowledge that, plants need a certain amount of light. They need a certain amount of watering, certain climates, temperature, this, that, and the other. I like the understanding to make that work. So oftentimes I kill plants. I have been, what I would almost say, cheating by using wisdom, using the experience and sitting with, sometimes even using that inner wisdom, that deeper wisdom, being with the plant so that the plant can tell me what I'm supposed to do so I can better take care of it.
And very intuitive people can often cheat. And in like the way you're saying,
Yeah.
they can go directly to wisdom and skip knowledge and understanding because they're just like, can't you see the leaves are a little bit droopy?
Yeah. It's telling me
It wants this.
Yeah. I'm overhydrated or I'm underhydrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't get wisdom without sitting through the process, without doing the process. Wisdom comes through doing. This is why the tree of life is such a helpful glyph for us in understanding this, because knowledge goes to understanding and understanding to wisdom on the way up. When you're explaining things, wisdom goes to understanding, which goes to knowledge. It's a little cycle there.
Yeah.
A pretty way to understand this. And sitting with something, which is something we really do not like to do. We have become a hyperactive society that you have to be doing. You have to be doing. And we don't stop to just be with a process or be with a thing long enough to understand it. Go back to my dough analogy that I was making. If you have not spent any time with dough and developed an understanding with it, you don't know that feeling of, oh, it hasn't relaxed yet.
Yeah.
Because you've done your proofing, the timer went off, your understanding and knowledge are telling you it's time to go to the next step. Wisdom is when you've spent enough time with it that when you touch it, you feel, oh, it still it's too tight. It needs to rest more. It hasn't rested fully yet. And you only get that from that spending time with the thing as it is. Spending time with that dough ball, not the loaf of bread or whatever it's going to become, but spending time with the dough ball as it is. And this is why I feel like the dark moon is like the most misunderstood symbol. And because yes, we can see it as the absence of light, but that tells us nothing about the moon and tells us everything about the sun. That's about the sun and the earth. The earth is blocking the sun's light from hitting the moon. That's why we have a dark moon. When you're talking about it being an absence of light, you're talking about the earth and the sun, not about the moon. That's what the moon actually is. The moon is reflective. It doesn't glow on its own. And if you're not spending time to understand the moon in the absence of external lighting, hopefully you're starting to get what I'm going at here. You're not gaining the true wisdom of the moon. If you haven't realized by now, like with all magical, mystical language, this is all analogy and metaphor to help you with your regular daily life. Sometimes, and it's hard, we don't like doing it, but you have to just sit with the thing. Just sit there. Like to me, I know someone is my friend and not just an acquaintance when we can sit in a room quietly together and enjoy each other's company. That is the wisdom of friendship. We know we don't have to talk. If you have to constantly be talking to somebody or engaging with somebody, that might not be a proper friendship. It's an acquaintance, but that deeper companionship, that deeper relationship hasn't formed yet. There's something about the relationship that requires this additional thing. Are you following with me with what I'm saying here? This is hard to talk about because we, again, do not have, I don't want to use the big word, we do not have a proper language to talk about this absence.
This is also why we spend a lot of time talking about practice and the importance of practice, because that is where a lot of it, that is a lot of what this is. Wisdom is gained through practice. It is very much all about practice. And inner wisdom is practicing the practice of sitting and just being with a thing. And that is even harder than, practice itself is hard enough. Practicing just sitting there.
That's why almost every practice, no matter what you're talking about, from Christian prayer to ultra complex time magic ritual, they sit you down and go, here, I'm going to teach you basically mindful meditation. They often call it different things. Like I want to teach you contemplative prayer or something, right?
Yeah.
But they always start with mindfulness meditation because you have to be first comfortable being quiet with yourself. And for a lot of people who are used to being filled with distraction, that's hard. If you've never had to just sit and be with yourself, it's really hard to sit and just be with others of any kind, right? But that's the first step. You have to get used to being with yourself. That is the main point of mindfulness meditation, is you're clearing up to just get used to, yeah, this is my body. This is my body when it's not thinking, not doing, just being. This is the dark moon of my body.
It's funny it's a dark moon because I was just thinking another example. This popped up in pop culture for a while there, where people would just sit in a dark room with a candle and the album, whatever the album is, and would just sitting and being with, it's an entire practice of sitting and being with an album and letting the music be what it is.
Which is a wonderful thing to do. And something I think a lot of people miss in music. It's something that I'm shocked when I find my friends that love music don't do. Because understanding is being able to confront the thing as it is. I can talk to you about all of the symbolism, the wordplay, the musical motifs in a song. But part of truly understanding that song is just sitting with it, feeling it, letting it fill your senses. That's when you start realizing what it is you actually like. Is it the artist? Usually the answer is no. You start realizing, oh, there's something about this bass line that I wasn't even paying attention to because it's so buried, because it's not the main bass line. It's like buried 3 layers deep in there. That's when you start getting to wisdom. And that's why we have such reverence for the wise. Because one, as you can tell, this takes time. There's no shortcut to wisdom, not because you have to be really, really old to have it, but because you have to have the space and time to just sit and be. Well, as a kid, you probably had a lot of energy and you just ran around a lot. And then as a young adult, you had freedom for the first time and you could do whatever you wanted, and you did. And you ran around a whole lot. And then you had a job and you had responsibilities and you had to pay the bills, so you ran around a whole lot just trying to get all that done. And that's why with wisdom comes with age, because it's that accumulation of all those little seconds adding up. But it's something you can build intentionally. Is one of the most vital aspects of the via negativa, of the negative way, to learn to just be with something. Because that's really where problems get solved. And you give one last example before we leave for the day. Our house is weird. Whoever designed this house did not understand how houses work. It's a nice house. I like this house. But air does not flow through it. Air gets stuck. They had no concept of airflow. And so, like just the other day, it was 78 degrees at my chair And 5 feet away, where you were sitting, it was 65.
Over 10-degree difference.
That's ridiculous. They did not understand how air flows in this house. All the heat kind of builds up in this one corner and doesn't let it go back into the rest of the house. It's annoying. It's obnoxious. I don't like it. Previous owners who have lived here, their solution was just to put a ceiling fan. And through living here and being with the house and trying to figure it out, the ceiling fan did nothing. The ceiling fan was something you turned on to tell yourself, I'm doing something about the problem. But it literally did nothing.
I don't know about the rest of you, but the idea of a helicopter propeller over my head that close all the time, just in my living space, is a little problematic to my brain.
It was taking time to understand, here's how air passes from the kitchen to the living room. Here's how air moves down the hallway. Here's how air interacts with the other rooms. Here's the circulation of air, how it moves around the house. And I literally did this I took a folding chair around the house and a stick of incense. And I just sat there and watched what happened to the incense smoke wherever I was sitting. And so I could see the airflow, right? And I had to sit with the house. And this was a long process because I was like, oh, okay, I think I see how to fix it, right? I have a little bit of understanding now. I grabbed I used some wisdom to generate some knowledge. I have some understanding. Let's set up some fans. Let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? And he had to go sit with it again. Because again, there's a difference between observation and sitting with. Observation is good. People should do observation. But there's a difference between this kind of stillness where I'm getting to understand the house on its own terms. The only way to really fix the airflow in this house would be to knock down a whole bunch of walls and reconstruct them in a way that allowed for proper airflow, and that you might as well build a new house. Like, we basically have to gut the house and rebuild the interior structure. And I don't have the time or money for that. So you just have to sit with it. Understand the house and how the house works on its own terms. And it took a long time, but a couple years ago, we finally started figuring it out. And incrementally, we've been fixing it. Now, this isn't an argument that all things have to happen with incremental change. Don't want anyone misunderstanding me. If we could have figured out what we know now, then we would have just done that. But we had things kind of right. Yes, there needs to be a fan in a particular corner to bust up the airflow and force airflow in places it doesn't want to circulate. Figuring out exactly what that space was, what that angle was, and everything else required living with various fans in that location and just living with it, being with it. It took time. We are living in a society that wants everything to be instant gratification. No one wants to sit with the dark moon. We want to get excited about the new moon when the light comes back, or mourn the loss of the light when the last quarter moon kind of finally slipped off the surface of it, because then we could do something.
I would ask that even if you've got a ridiculously busy schedule, if you're a shark who cannot stop moving because that means you'll stop breathing and you'll die. Okay. Welcome to the club. Hi, I'm our president and member. Always moving and doing. Even with that, this is the joy of cyclic living. The new moon is a perfect time. Even if you take once a month, or because this month is so special for tons of reasons we're going to talk about, but you actually get 2 opportunities this month. Take that time around the new moon, before, during, after, whichever day works in there. It's that reminder, hey, I'm going to sit with a thing. Even if you just go 15 minutes, that's it. So a 15-minute timer, and make yourself just sit with it. Because even 15 minutes a month will make such a huge difference. It's like 3 whole hours in a year.
So all hail the wisdom of the dark moon.
All hail the wisdom of the dark moon.
And just letting the dark moon be what the dark moon is. Not saying we have to throw out all of the other symbolism. We can use all that too. It's just this is a neglected part that we never talk about and not want to talk about it. Alrighty. I hope this helped somebody out. I know I wish when I was a kid somebody had explained this to me. When I was an adult, I wish somebody had explained this to me. This is something that it took a very long time for me to just get.
I would have killed a lot less plants.
Oh yeah. I would love to know your experience with this. Just being with someone, just being, just existing in the same space. Your thoughts, your experiences, let us know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on Spotify or YouTube, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, and even if it says you leave a comment, they won't let us know. So you leave a comment there because engagement is magic, but then head over to creationspast.com and click on chat. You leave a comment there and we'll be able to see it. I would love to know what you think about this. While you're there, if you have a few dollars you can pass our way, you can think about joining a membership, or you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi IMC. We're set on both, and that money just helps us to keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and keep food on our table. And thank you to everybody who does that. You all are amazing. And if you don't have any money, don't worry about it. You can always help us out by sharing what we're doing with other people and helping us to continue to grow, because we really do this out of the love of doing it. Alrighty, as we're heading out, Ave Maria Stella, O Hail Mary, Star of the Sea. We pray that you will help to guide us in all the dark places that we should walk. And like you, we should learn the wisdom of pondering all things in our hearts. Amen.
Amen.